or careful way should a crisis erupt. Well, I spoke with Mr. Panetta last night and began by asking him whether he finds believable that report this week in the Wall Street Journal, which you heard referred to earlier in the show, that people in the intelligence community are withholding critical information from President Trump because they don't trust him.
No, it's not. In my experience, I have never had intelligence officers who have a responsibility to provide full information to the president and to other leaders in the country ever withhold a piece of intelligence. So it's something that certainly hasn't occurred when I was there, and I doubt whether it's happened this time.
If you were running the CIA and you had an intelligence officer say, I have a sensitive piece of information, but it may be connected with this investigation that's going on with the current president, in particular Russia. This is the implication that was in the Wall Street Journal story, that somehow, if anything, at least in that sphere, there's a concern about giving that to the president. Would you have a hesitation of giving that information to the president?
Absolutely not, because your first responsibility is to provide the truth to the president. And if you start thinking about how the president's going to use it, what he's going to do with that information, then frankly, you'll never provide the truth to the president. And that's what intelligence officers are supposed to do.
So if you were head of the CIA and you knew intelligence officers were doing this, would that be a fireable offense?
Absolutely. I think any time an intelligence agency withholds vital information to the president, or withholds any key information to the president, that's a violation of their oath.
So let's talk about, though, this issue with the relationship between this president and the intel community. It's rocky, to say the least. What do you hear on the morale front?
Well, obviously, it's not a good situation because there is a lack of trust between the president and the intelligence community, and between the intelligence community and the president. And you know, every time he demeans the intelligence community or accuses it of leaks and accuses it of doing things that it's not doing, that obviously impacts on the morale of that institution. Look, these are good people. They're not Republicans or Democrats. They're good patriots who are trying to do their job. That's a tough job. They got to put their lives on the line in order to provide information to the president. The last thing they need is to have a president who questions their patriotism to this country and to him.
What is if this continues, if this sort of Cold War between the intel community and the president continues, where he believes that any bad story about him and a foreign leader, or him in a situation having to do with national security, is due to an intelligence leak, and that's what he tells the public, what is the long-term impact on the CIA?
Well, the bigger question is, what is the long-term impact on the President of the United States and the decisions that the President has to make with regards to foreign policy and protecting the security of the country? That's his first responsibility, is to protect the country. He can't do that without getting intelligence, without getting good intelligence as to what's going on in the world. And so ultimately, you do have to have a relationship of trust reestablished. I hope Mike Pompeo, who's the new director of the CIA, can do that. I hope that Dan Coates, who's the new director of national intelligence, that he can help do that. I think Jim Mattis is trying to do that. So my hope is that ultimately that relationship can be reestablished. Why? Because it has to be reestablished for the sake of the country.
But do you believe that the president has a point on these leaks at all? Do you think these leaks are coming from the intel community and that it is undermining his presidency?
Chuck, you know, I've been involved in politics for a long time, and I've served 2 presidents and have worked under 9 presidents. Leaks are a problem that every president has complained about.
Right.
The presidents that I worked for complained about leaks. But the reality is that leaks come from all kinds of directions. Right. The most important thing you can do to stop leaks is to establish loyalty between the people that are working for you and the President of the United States. If you establish that sense of loyalty, then he won't have to worry about leaks.
Anyway, Leon Panetta, again, if I go through all your titles, I'll run out of time. But it is always good to see you, sir, and thanks for coming on to share your views.
Chuck, it was good to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, before we go, a reminder of our podcast this week, the story of a high-flying lobbyist and a dark tale of power and influence in Washington. 1947, the Meet the Press podcast. Check it out on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. It is